point where the the changes are there in 2024 in business impact analysis. Once we were doing business impact analysis, we were doing a risk assessment as part of the business impact analysis. Now, once you're doing risk analysis, you take two dependencies. First thing you take is internal dependencies, right? Whatever the processes which you are dependent on internally, and there will be external dependencies. Okay, your external dependencies can be, your clients. Now, say your business suffers some major disaster, then your clients might get affected, right? So clients is one of the external dependencies. Then you can also have, regulatory issues. If your business goes down, there could be regulatory dependencies. There could also be some legal dependencies. Okay, so whenever you are doing a risk assessment for business impact analysis, or in fact any risk assessment, you will definitely carry out your environmental analysis, and that is the meaning of external dependencies once you are carrying out business impact analysis. So this was part of 2024, and that's why I covered it a little differently. Okay, the next thing which I want to cover is supply chain risks. Okay, now the normal supply chain risk. What is a supply chain? Okay, suppose you're developing a product, right? You're developing a laptop, right? So you are the end product which you sell to the clients, right? To the customers in the B2C segment. So, but this laptop depends on multiple things. It depends on a keyboard. It depends on a CPU. It depends on a screen. Okay. In return, the keyboard is dependent on plastic. In return, the plastic is dependent on some processing firm, right? Similarly, the CPU, you are dependent on a CPU manufacturer who is dependent on silicon, as a substrate from some sourcing, right? Similarly, for the screen, it might be assembled in some plant in China, and from first it was, it is getting ready from some local factory based out of maybe Brazil, right? So what you are saying is, once you are getting all the stuff together, you're dependent on multiple supply chains. Okay, and there could be multiple, vulnerabilities which can arise in your supply chain itself, right? So this is something which you need to evaluate, and it should become your part of the service level agreement with your external. This is an external dependencies, okay, with which you need to maintain a service level agreement. But now, what are the issues? What are the threats that can, materialize? Is product tampering. What is product tampering? Now, suppose you were supposed to get keyboard from a place in China, and it lands on your dock, okay? And from there, you are supposed to get it. Somebody comes in between and replaces this keyboard with a, some malware which is injected into this keyboard. So what will happen is, this malware injected keyboard will come into your environment. And once this reaches the, the business environment, some business environment, what will happen is, you will get an infected laptop. Now, as a business entity, are you ready to, evaluate this risk? Are you evaluating this risk? Are you evaluating the supply chain risk? Okay, that is what is meant by, product tampering. And this is how you will have to evaluate it. Once you are at a senior position and you're looking at security, you're looking at from where the, product is originating, and what are the risks associated with the product on the way. Okay, it can also have counterfeits. So this was just tampering. Somebody might give you counterfeits, right? What happens? You ordered for something. You are a company which sourced 100 laptops from this company, okay, in 200, and out of 100, 80 were fine. Okay, 80 were fine, 80 were good, but 20 laptops were changed in the supply chain by some entity. Okay, 20 laptops were changed, and they probably came with, a malware infected OS. And these are live cases, guys. This happens. Malware infected OS, right? You trusted a vendor and you sourced the laptops from that vendor. That vendor is not reliable. He bought 80 good pieces, but 20 bad pieces, to save on the cost. And instead of loading original OS, okay, he, uploaded I will say a pirated OS, right? So he saves on the cost of 20 licenses, which you are supposed to buy. And now these 20 laptops come into your environment. What do you do? Okay, now this is where your risk assessment and this you can have two things. Firstly, you need to have a trusted vendor system. You cannot have, just go to some local shop and buy, 100 laptops. Well, if you are a small business, you can afford to do that. But if you are an organization or you're enterprise-based system, you may not be able to do that. Even if you're a small business, you will not take this risk if you are, looking into the information security aspects, right? And now, as an organization, do you have processes to mitigate this risk? That means, do you have a process? First is, of course, SLA. Second is, of course, your contract violation will take place. And third is, you will have some legal recourse. But that's fine. That's afterwards. How to manage this risk? How will you manage this risk? This risk probably can be managed at a process level by having a process of, checks and balances. So if you have a process check wherein, each and every hardware which comes into your environment is checked for, authenticity of the hardware and the software, then probably you will, understand if there is a defined IT process where each and every piece of hardware comes to inventory. From inventory, there is a, local acceptance of the inventory, and then it is introduced into the production environment, then maybe it will get checked. But if you directly take it and just, take it from the stores and, introduce into your environment, it will bring in the vulnerabilities, right? So this is what is meant by supply chain risk and how you can handle product tampering and counterfeits. Now, one of the major concerns in highly regulated environment is something called product implants. Now, Chinese are, very, very, poor when it comes to maintaining SLAs in this sector. So what they do, you say, suppose you are a company, you want to make laptops, you outsource this to China. Now, the Chinese factories, if you go someday to China, huge factories, right? Now, they are all part of the communist regime, and I don't know how much government control you have on the factories. And you put a small implant, a small software or a hardware, which once gets introduced into your environment, starts relaying some important information to some remote server somewhere, right? So this also is, the product implant is a big concern in the government industry and in the government organizations, where they are wary of some kind of product implants being carried out from supply chain risks. Okay, so how can you overcome it? You have to have, proper process checks of introducing the hardware into the environment. Okay, you can also send it to some, accredited lab to get it checked that some implants have not been incorporated inside the product which you are sourcing from a vendor, who in turn manufactures those goods in a country of question, right? So that could be one of the problem areas. Okay. Next thing, once we have certain three more things which I wanted to discuss, was something is called a silicon root of trust. Now, this is not given in Cybex. Second is a physically unclonable function. And third is software bill of materials. Now, this is all part of the supply chain risk. Okay. Now, what is silicon root of trust? A silicon root of trust is, say you manufactured a device, okay, and you have incorporated some kind of trust by means of a chip, okay. That chip has certain trust software, okay. You are implementing the root, that is whichever is your BIOS device. You have incorporated software mechanisms to prove the trust, okay. So basically you're trying to incorporate some amount of trust programming into the chip level. That is, at the chip level you will say, I have given you certain manufacturing design, that this is how it is going to happen, this is how the VLSI design is going to be, okay. You incorporate this design by a means of a trust value into the hardware itself. That means you can be assured, because you have burnt physically some kind of a trust agreement into the silicon chip. That is called a silicon root of trust, okay. The next is physically unclonable function. Now, what happens is, see, you are worried about somebody giving you some kind of a counterfeit, okay. You are worried about you ordered some hardware, you are worried about somebody cloning this hardware and giving you this counterfeit, okay. You implement design level, you implement design level, architecture in such a manner, you incorporate a function, mathematical function, some kind of software, some kind of a burnt hardware chip burnt into your machine, that cannot be cloned. The moment somebody tries to clone it, this device just goes off. It's just not possible for you to clone the device, okay. Now once you do that kind of thing, somebody may not be able to create a counterfeit of your system, okay. Right. And third is software bill of materials. What is software bill of materials? Now you see, you buy so much of software, right? You don't know how the software has been manufactured, okay. So these days, when I'm sourcing a software from someone, I've asked someone to make a software, I will ask that, the way you have made the software, I want all the libraries which you have used, all the functions which you have used, any open source libraries used, okay, any third party libraries used. So I would like to have a complete bill of material with me for a critical software in my organization, which might have, impact on my risk. So if I'm buying a, critical software, or I'm getting a software made, I would request for the software bill of material. Now that may not happen if you are buying a SaaS product or a small software, because vendor may not agree to it. But if it's a large project, it's a critical project where risks are enormous, then you would probably ask for software bill of material, right? Next is one more point is periodic content review. Now, as far as training is, this is part of the training part of user, okay. You need to have periodic content review for emerging technologies. So that means you should visit your training content once every 3 months, 6 months, and review it to incorporate the latest technologies like cryptocurrency, okay, how it affects, because cryptocurrency, if you use crypto, if you we will touch crypto and blockchain in the future in domain 3 and domain 4. Cryptocurrency is a means of it though it's a good technology, but what it facilitates is money to be transferred without using actual money. There's some kind of a digital parallel digital economy which has been incorporated using cryptocurrencies, and it can be used for both good and bad. So now the bad actors are using cryptocurrencies to take ransomwares from organizations, right? If you would have read these days, Logbit, Logbit 2.0 was completely shut down by FBI, but they are saying Logbit 3.0 has come up. We have checked it; it has not come up, right? So cryptocurrency was one of the major factors for rise of ransomware, because you could hack someone and ask for bitcoins and some kind of cryptocurrency, so that there's no trace. But now even cryptocurrency can be traced back. Now with the advent of AI coming in, now AI is taking on a lot of things. There's a lot of I'll say uncertainty over certain positions which will go off, but we have to understand what are the AI technologies and incorporate it into security and security processes and training processes. Now, one of the major factors once you're training for AI for users would be some kind of a deep faking by using AI. Now, deep faking, you will be called to some interview and there would be a board setting on the call, and it will look everything is real, and you'll be convinced for something. Recently, someone was fooled out of $25 million, where one particular finance guy was called into an interview, and supposedly all AI based deepfakes were sitting, and he was convinced to transfer 25 million to a particular account, right? So we have to train our users into understanding these kind of threats, and we need to periodically review those content as far as this training goes, because training forms part of your overall governance process, right? So this was what I touched now, was part of 2024 content. There's nothing available as of now, so I researched on my own and brought them out as far as classes were concerned. I've included this all in my slides. You can go through my slide, that's there, right? Okay, now I'm done with domain 1. If you have any doubts regarding domain 1, please ask. We'll have a short discussion, and then we'll take a short break and start domain 2 fresh. Domain 2 is comparatively a small domain. We should be able to finish within an hour. Okay. Any doubts till now, guys? So there are two outcomes if no doubts are there. Either you guys are not studying, or there's nothing understood on my behalf. Right. Please, have you been able to go through CyBEX 1 to 5, chapters 1 to 5?
Yes, sir, we have gone through, but not to 5. From 1 to 4, we have covered till now. I mean, I have covered.
Great.
And I'll go for the chapter 5 today.
Okay, great. So please go through it, guys. Otherwise, you'll start getting lag behind, and then it will become a little difficult to catch on, right? You have to maintain this pressure on yourself for this exam. That's the only way you can. Recently, 2 students passed. There was this guy Prakha. I was very surprised. He passed in 60 days. Okay, he started with me around 5th of January, and he gave on 26th or 27th, and he passed, right? He passed bang at 125th question. Then there was this guy Divesh. He had taken my recorded sessions, and that guy also passed. He had earlier taken training with Ajit also. Okay, so if there's no doubts, let's take a 5 minutes break. Okay, and then we will start with domain 2. If you have no questions, then we will go ahead with domain 2.
I have a question not related to this, but since you touched about this AI, how mature it is deployment of AI and ML in SOC solutions? How matured we are in currently?
See, it all depends on how innovatively you can think of. So I'm making an EDR solution, and I was thinking how to incorporate AI ML based system. So what I did was I took the OpenAI platform, I took its API, right? So we're building an EDR solution, and so we have known threats, known signatures, right? And we have binaries for unknown signatures. You know what's a binary, right? Basically the binary file of any process which is running, which has not been identified. It could be a good process, it can be a broad process, but we want to confirm, right? These binaries, which we had unknown signatures, right? We built a small function which passed this binary into a JSON format, right? And passed it to API of the OpenAI, and asked that the questions that we asked the API was, what is your assessment, and what is it that you can tell us about the signature. And if you feel that the signature is a threat signature, can you parse it again as a JSON file as per OVAL language? And it was doing it beautifully. So this was just a small technique by which we were generating threat signatures into our database. That is just one. Okay, so now what is happening? Earlier, known signatures fine. Unknown signatures, unknown binaries was physically being done by threat researchers who are sitting there, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, but there are a lot of gaps. Let me tell you, binary is just one aspect, right? To confirm, there would be, I need the complete TTP, and now I cannot feed the complete TTP to the OpenAI model. So I have to generate a special model to train the LLM against a TTP. So say there are 20 TTPs as per MITRE, or 19 TTPs as per MITRE. Okay, I train the LLM on these models with specific use cases, and then I create my own model. So once I've created my own model, I have a security model which is running. Now I can probably feed these data, and I can automate. I can create a lot of. I'll say a lot of automation. That is my understanding till now, whatever I've seen of generative AI, right? You can take a lot of threat feeds and train your own model. You can create your own model. Okay, there are a lot of open source models available. You can create, but you require a lot of machine power. So you can actually train, at the network level you can train, at the transport level you can train, and at the application level you can train, and at the logging level you can train your models. We are working on that. So
thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe our channel.